Let's look at the basics of trigonometry equations and graphs. Now, starting off with the cos graph, it has a shape like this, where the maximum is 1 and the minimum being -1. The sine graph has the following shape, again with minus and +1. Both of these will fully move through the 360 degrees. 180 being in the middle, which means that it intercepts the x-axis at 90 and 270 degrees for the cos. And it has a maximum of 90 degrees. At 0.90 degrees it has the maximum, and at 0.270 degrees the sine graph has a minimum. Now let's move over to the tan graph. The tan graph has a cycle of 180, and the tan graph has two asymptotes, being at 90 degrees and 270. Now remember, an asymptote means that the graph will never touch it, but move closer and closer towards it. And this is the shape of the tan graph. Right, the tan graph intercepts here at 180. There you go. And that is the shape of the tan graph. Right, let's have a look at one example where we need to solve a trigonometric equation, and specifically I'm going to ask for the general solution. So let's look at sine x, and if they give us that sine x is 0.5, they can ask us to find the general solution. Now what you do is you can either go to your special triangles if it is in such a way, but in this case we only have 0.5 and not as a normal fraction as it is in your special triangles. So we can go to our calculator and say shift or second function of 0.5 to get the angle value. So the reference angle in this case will be 30 degrees. Right, now with the reference angle of x being 30, please just note that sine is positive in the first as well as in the second quadrant. So we can have the following two answers for sine. Right, reference angle being 30. So for quadrant 1, which is everything from 0 to 90, in quadrant 1, we will have the answer of x is equal to 30, and then obviously for any amount of the cycle in 360. And it will be an element of z. Alright, let's move on to quadrant 2, because sine is positive in quadrant 2 as well. There you go. Let's just have a look before we continue. In this quadrant, cos is positive, all of them, sine and tan will be positive. Alright, getting back to sine. So sine is positive in quadrant 2, which means it is 180 minus our reference angle, that was 30. So 180 minus 30 is 150 degrees. And again, it has a cycle of 360, so we can say plus n times 360, and n is an element of z.